Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big, weird, wild world out there, folks, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, that's Dan, and you're listening to...
The ProBoh Show!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this, the Tuesday edition of the ProBoh Show. It is currently 8:30 a.m. Central European Time, and you're listening to me and Dan live. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well. I'm doing fine.
It's Tuesday. The
cruelest day of the week.
The cruelest day of the week, apparently. Not for me. I enjoy Tuesdays. The Band-Aid has been ripped, and here we are, ready for action. Okay, what's coming up in today's show? We're going to hit some more controversial, unpopular opinions coming up. Why not? Today we're talking about politics. Okay, don't tune out. A very specific idea that I mentioned on the lunchtime show a little while ago and caused a little stir among the community. So we're going to table it today for further discussion. It is: politicians should only earn their country's minimum wage. That's today's unpopular opinion. Politicians should only earn their country's minimum wage. Interesting. And today's 100 humans, we asked them to name a profession you trust less than politicians. ¿Qué profesión te inspira menos confianza que un político? That's today's 100 humans question. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I'm here, you're here, our angelic podcast listeners are here. Let's see what's going on in the world. First of all, in our chat room for our live audience, how are you doing, guys? We've got BTI here who says, good morning, Bohemians. Good morning, BTI. Good morning to you. Vero's here. Good morning, beautiful Bohemians around the universe and beyond. Eugene from Russia is here. The Bridge. She says, good morning, I'm up and crushing. She doesn't say good morning, I'm up and crushing, Dan. She has a huge text. Shall I do it or shall I skip it?
Do it.
Oh, because you like to see me suffer, don't you, Dan? Good morning.
She put the effort on that text.
Okay, she cuts and pastes it, I'm almost positive.
You don't know it.
Corta y pega. She says, good morning, my beautiful Bonnie Bouncy Bohemians and Bonnie Bouncy Bob and darling dashing dandy Dan the radio man. Testy Tuesday. Yeah, I'm quite grumpy today, Dan. I don't know why. Artemisa's with us, fresh back from her trip in York. How was York? Artemisa, tell us everything. She says, good morning, beautiful Bohemians. Good morning to you. All right. Should we get into some news? Why the hell not, Dan? You want to know about AI, don't you? You're just dying for some AI news, Dan. I'm not going to give it, don't worry. This is from The Conversation. How teaching the history of science can help equip students to face polarized times. Cómo enseñar la historia de la ciencia, o ciencia, my bad. I always forget when to lisp. Ayuda a preparar a los estudiantes para afrontar tiempos polarizados. Ciencia. If you're an English speaker learning Spanish, when do you lisp? You lisp on the soft C. That's a C with an I or an E after it. And why don't I always do that, Shaw? Trying my best. All right. Science education can no longer pretend to be separate from politics or public life. One of the sad consequences, I think, Dan, of the coronavirus pandemic was the amount of fear-mongering that went on with regards to vaccines and a general decline in trust from scientific in the public towards scientific institutions. Would you say that's an accurate assessment, Dan, of what happened? A lot of people saying, "Oh, vaccines bad," you know. The science doesn't know. I did my own research. Oh. Does that make sense to you? Does that ring true, Dan?
I guess so, yes.
Yeah. Sad consequence that we still haven't recovered from, I don't think. And of course, that not only science struggled with a decline in reputation, so did journalism. I would suggest probably unfoundedly so. I mean, there are institutions within journalism that obviously are of ill repute, but that doesn't make all journalists bad, does it? So science education can no longer pretend to be separate from politics or public life. As misinformation spreads and trust in science is challenged, the classroom has become one of the places where students must learn how to navigate competing claims about vaccines, climate change, artificial intelligence, and more. Are you pro or con vaccines, Dan? We've never had this discussion.
Pro.
Yeah, thank God for you. No, let's not say that in voz alta, because you have a colleague. You have a colleague that probably has very different ideas.
The other day, well, I will tell you later.
No, tell me. You can't do that, because now the radio audience are like, oh, what? Go on, tell me.
The other day...
the colleague.
You said... The colleague. You said something about climate change, and he started to get angry. Saying that wasn't true.
Yeah, climate change isn't real. Jeez. You have to be a special kind of idiot to believe climate change isn't happening. I mean, sorry. Look, you may be out there getting angry with me right now. Remember, I don't care. Like, I will have a discussion with anyone, Dan, about climate change. I will have a discussion with anyone about its causes. Like, I've had, sensible-ish discussions with people who think climate change is a natural cyclical phenomena, right? And, I can find, even though I don't believe that, I think, the majority of the climate change problem that we are experiencing is man-made. If you think it's just a natural cyclical phenomena, then I will sit down and have a conversation with you. If you think it's not happening, you are beyond my help. You might as well be a flat earther as far as I'm concerned. Dan, you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
I hope he is not. I mean...
Yeah, but I mean, it's not 100 miles away from me. Anyway, let's continue. I know a lot of you are pissed off listening to me rant about climate change. Yeah. Look, we can sit here and talk about it all day long, but it kind of goes towards the point that we're arguing here, or at least that the conversation is arguing in this piece, how teaching the history of science can help equip students face polarized times, tiempos polarizados. Basically how the classroom has become one of the places where students learn how to navigate competing claims about vaccines, about climate change, artificial intelligence, etc. This article argues that teaching the history of science can help because it shows science as a human process shaped by evidence, debate, uncertainty, and revision, not just a collection of fixed facts. When I say to people like, oh, well, look, I will follow the science, and that is my go-to answer for everything related to, related to climate change, related to vaccine information, artificial intelligence, I follow the science because I know science when, unlike other philosophies like religion, for example, like science will change based on the evidence. It's a beautiful thing about science. Anyway, let's continue. Because I know I'm going to get messages today. By the way, if you've got a message you want to complain, the email is nobodycares@grupovalgon.com. There we will read them. You can guarantee that. Anyway, let's continue. This article argues that teaching the history of science can help because it shows science as a human process shaped by evidence, debate, uncertainty, and revision, not just a collection of fixed facts. It also helps students understand that scientific knowledge has been shaped by power, including histories tied to colonialism, gender exclusion, racism, and exploitation. The article calls for a broader and more honest approach to science teaching, one that does not hide difficult histories but uses them to build critical thinking and democratic engagement. It's true. There's a really interesting book by Bill Bryson called A Small History of Nearly Everything or something like that. And it's basically a potted history of science and scientists. And it's very interesting. You see the fallibility in it. You see well, maybe more than the fallibility, you see the human element of science. That's what he aims to illustrate in that book. And it is wildly entertaining. I do highly recommend it. Anyway, let's continue. Rather than weakening science education, this approach can prepare young people to recognize misinformation, think historically about controversy, and participate more responsibly in polarized times. The piece ultimately argues that schools, teacher education programs, and researchers should support educators in bringing these historical and socio-political dimensions into the science classroom. What do you think, Dan? What do you think with regards to this? Would you have appreciated a history of science class?
To be sincere,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Why not?
Because I think you are taking that from a adult or an older generation perspective, and nowadays we have too many asignaturas. You don't have a space to put another one.
Can I offer a rebuttal, sir? I think as important as the kings and queens, the old Catholic kings and queens, is a history of science.
Yes, but would you substitute it?
I would include it. I would certainly include it in history, in a history class.
Well, I think there's too much content.
Yeah, you may be right about that. If you're going to remove something, what would you remove?
I don't know. That's why I find a problem there.
Yeah.
Every day there's a new thing to study, and people don't.
Dan, relax. You're not at school.
No, but it's true. I mean,
No, you are. I don't want to poo-poo your ideas because you're obviously right there. We have a full packed curriculum. There's several problems with education. Number one, it hasn't changed since the Industrial Revolution. That's why it's so institutional in basis. Ring a bell, everybody goes outside. Ring a bell, everybody comes back inside. Ring a bell, everyone sits down, be quiet. If you look at a school canteen, it's so similar to the kind of canteen and eating area that there is in a prison. If you're ever in doubt of the institutional nature of schools, check that out. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think curricula needs changing full stop, if I'm honest with you. I mean, there are certain things that should be added and certain things I think maybe perhaps aren't as prescient in the modern day as they are, or as they seem to be. I mean, like a personal finances, technology, navigating the media, all things that classrooms would benefit from, I think. I don't know where you guys stand about that. We're actually doing a topic regarding education tomorrow, so do stay tuned for that. It'll be an interesting one. Anyway, let me see what people are saying here. Good morning, beautiful bohemians. That's where we left off. The Bridge says, less politicians? Really, Rob? Difficult, impossible questions for a Tuesday. Not less politicians. That's not the unpopular opinion, but we will get there. Eugene says, we have a man in our yoga class who believes there is no climate change. It's the same man who believes the earth is flat. Yeah. If you take the Venn diagram, Dan, of people who don't believe climate change is happening and flat earthers, I bet they intersect. I bet that's just one circle. Jariam says, climate change exists because they are spraying us chemtrails. Oh, Jariam, I really hope you're joking. I really hope you're joking. Have you ever heard of a broadcaster called, oh God, what's his name? Alex. Let me see if I can find him real quick because it's not all that pertinent, but very funny. Alex, oh no, I can't find him. He's a conspiracy theorist in the US, and he thinks the chemtrails are turning the frogs, los ranas, gay, homosexuales. I'm not even joking about that. If you just type Alex turning frogs gay into Google, you'll find the clip. In fact, I might actually ask you, Dan, to go and try and find that. Anyway. Let's see. Kind of joking. Okay, Jerry, I'm glad to know that. Thank you. All right, on that note, guys, an interesting topic. Yeah, I mean, I believe that we should be teaching the history of science. I think it contextualizes everything, and you see where science butts up against institutions, not only in the field of astronomy, as quite famously in history, you know, the idea that the sun isn't the center of the universe and that we rotate around the sun and not contrary, that the earth is a globe and not a flat disk. All these ideas they were considered heretical, weren't they, by the church? So it's definitely valuable, I think. I think maybe what we need in schools, Dan, is a media and a media history class, and it may fall into that. Because what kids certainly need to do is identify. They do need to identify in these polarized times, tiempos polarizados, they do need a key to be able to properly identify information that isn't factual, right? Did you find it, Dan?
I wasn't certain.
You wasn't searching, were you? You were on your mobile phone watching TikTok videos.
No, I was taking notes.
Were you really?
Yes.
Look at you, Dan. All right, on that note, friends, let's go to today's unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
Okay, this is going to be a controversial one. I am pretty sure. Today's unpopular opinion is, politicians should earn their country's minimum wage. Los políticos deberían ganar únicamente el salario mínimo de su país. It's a tough one today. The number one piece of pushback is it will increase corruption. And whenever anyone says that, I know I'm going to get involved in an argument, so I usually shut my mouth. I will not be shutting my mouth today, friends. Let's get into it. How do you think people voted on Instagram, Dan?
I think they voted true.
You think they voted true? Let me tell you. On Instagram, among our listeners that interact with the show there, you can also... Alex Jones, thank you, Dan. Alex Jones, they're turning the frogs gay. What an idiot. All right. A politician should earn their country's minimum wage. People did vote true, Dan. 74% of people voted true, and only 26 voted false, 26%. What do you think, personally?
I don't think they need to earn the minimum wage, but I think they don't need to earn un sueldo vitalicio.
A salary for life.
A salary for life, I don't think they need it.
No, I would agree with that statement. But why don't you think they should earn minimum wage, which is the topic up for discussion?
Because I think that politicians have a very bad stigma in society.
Yeah.
And that is a profession that has a lot of hate on the streets.
Okay, let's follow that thought. Why do you think they have a negative stigma? Corruption.
Because lo que hace uno se lo lleva el resto.
Lo que hace uno se lleva el resto. I don't understand that.
That if one does something bad,
yeah,
all the rest of politicians take bad.
So essentially, corruption. A bad apple spoils the cart.
Yes.
And I think the assumption is that if everyone earned minimum wage, that there'd be an increase in corruption, right? And I think that's really, that not only demonstrates a lack of understanding of why corruption takes place, but also a lack of understanding what holding public office should mean. Politicians earn a fortune right now. And they earn that fortune for the rest of their lives here in Spain, right? And they're still very corrupt. What we're talking about is not an issue of, less money, more corruption. We're talking about an issue of policing, of oversight, of visibility. It should be way harder for corruption to take place. But we're falling out of the remit of our unpopular opinion, which is... Politicians should earn minimum wage. Políticos deberían ganar únicamente el salario mínimo de su país. So let's get into it. It keeps leaders connected to ordinary people. Earning the same as low-income workers would make politicians more aware of the real cost of living and public's struggles. And I think we can all agree to that. I mean, how many times have you heard me say on this show, Donald Trump doesn't know what it's like to be you. He doesn't know what it's like to be you. He doesn't know what it's like to go to Mercadona and have to price up the difference in price between two of your favorite products. He doesn't understand what it's like to be you. He doesn't know what it's like to wait on the metro and have to miss a train because it's too full. He doesn't know what it's like to struggle to pay your electricity bill. He doesn't know what it's like to maybe skip a holiday one year because, you've just overspent. He doesn't know what it's like to be you. Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, Pedro Sanchez, whoever you want to say, they don't know what it's like to be you. We have a habit of voting in millionaires and then being shocked that they don't understand the struggles of everyday people. Public service shouldn't be about wealth. Politics is meant to serve society, not become a path to financial privilege. It's an act of service, which is what makes gerrymandering. Well, if I have time in the second half, we'll get further into this. Gerrymandering. We'll get into it in a second because I'm running out of time. I get quite passionate when I'm talking about this stuff. Reduces perception of elitism. High political salaries can create distance between elected officials and the populations they represent. Yeah, again, it could only bring people closer, or have a perception at least of closeness between the political classes and the rest of us, right? Symbolic accountability. If politicians had to live on minimum wage, they would be more motivated to improve wages and social systems. Amen. If you have to live, you know how you improve minimum wage? You make sure the people in power earn minimum wage. You want to improve the quality of education? Remove private schools. As soon as rich people have to send their kids to schools with everybody else, watch how quick, and there is evidence of this in society in Scandinavian countries, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Final point in the pro column, where 75% now of our people voted. It discourages career politicians. Low pay might attract people motivated more by principle than status or money. And let's be honest, if there is one common thread among all politicians, they seem to be more motivated by the status, power and money than service. Now, let's get into the cons, los contras. Saying or suggesting that it would create bigger problems. Only the wealthy could afford politics. If political salaries were extremely low, many capable middle or working class people couldn't realistically hold office. My pushback, working class people are already getting paid minimum wage. Elves. Increases corruption risk. Underpaying politicians may make bribery, lobbying, influence, or backdoor income more tempting. Again, all I hear when I read those words is that there needs to be more oversight on all politicians, because let's face it, they're earning a fortune right now. And I'm not just talking about Spain, I'm talking about all over the world. They're earning a fortune right now and being corrupt. And again, I'm talking about politicians with a very broad brush here. Not every politician is corrupt. Politics is high responsibility work. Running governments involves enormous pressure, long hours, and major decision-making responsibilities. Yeah, which is what makes it a vocation and not a career stepping stone to go to the board of directors of some big energy company, right? Which is, we've seen happen a ton of times. Politics is merely a stepping stone into highly lucrative board of director positions. It is a role of service. Competitive salaries attract talent. Strong compensation can help attract experienced professionals who might otherwise remain in higher paying private sector jobs. And the final point in the con column, saying that politicians earning minimum wage would create bigger problems. Symbolism doesn't solve systemic issues. A politician earning less doesn't automatically lead to better governance or empathy. I kind of call BS on that as well. Certainly more empathy. Again, when we elect multi-millionaires into office and then act surprised that they don't understand what it is to live on a low income, right? I mean, let's be honest, folks. Not even a low income is enough to survive nowadays, is it? You know, many people, myself included, have extra gigs outside of my day-to-day work. You have to make ends meet, don't you? It's a tough one today and controversial, but I will ask you to put your rational hat on. Will it increase corruption? I would suggest possibly not. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's a problem of oversight, isn't it? It's not a problem of... it's certainly not a problem of Or it's more a problem of the kind of people who are attracted to politics. Let me ask you a question. Are you happy with your politicians? Then maybe we need to attract a different kind of person to office. It's an interesting one today. A lot of thoughts probably going through your head. If you want to join in the vote, you can do that on twitch.tv tvitch.tv/professional bohemian. That's Bohemio Profesional, pero en inglés. I would be very interested to know your opinions on this one. It is a controversial one today. A politician should earn the minimum wage of its country or his country or her country. Los políticos deberían ganar únicamente el salario mínimo de su país. True or false? We're going to take a very quick commercial break while you guys vote, so please do so, and I will see you in just a few minutes. Hey guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, PROBOH. Okay, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. You're listening to us live at 9 a.m. where we have a very, very controversial, unpopular opinion today with regards to politicians and particularly what they earn. If you just tuned in, we also looked at an interesting article from The Conversation arguing that we should teach the history of science to young people in order to better equip them to face this polarized society and pick through fact from fiction. You know what? Maybe, Dan, maybe you're right. Because Dan argued through the show that there is already too much to learn. Yeah, perhaps included, here's an idea, Dan. So in English schools, we learn lengua inglesa, English language, and English literature, literatura inglesa. Same in Spanish, right? Perhaps a part of English or Spanish literature, we should be learning media literacy, not just classic literature. How's about that? Because a better understanding of how the media works, how it, the narrative nature of every piece of media that is produced, even a documentary. It's very rare you'll get a documentary without some kind of narrative to it, without some story it's trying to tell. Very rarely a dry reading of facts. I can only think of one documentary that actually successfully does that. Interesting documentary called Jesus Camp, hailed by the Baptist community that it speaks about, but also hailed by more secular-minded people who find what's going on in the documentary disgusting. But both sides like it because it is just a dry telling of the events. But most documentaries aren't that well made, are they? So they have some kind of agenda, even if it is altruistic in nature. So anyway, perhaps a good idea to teach the history of science, to show young people where science has butted up against institutions in the past and the misinformation that was popularized in those times. Who knows? Who knows, friends? Because then we moved to today's unpopular opinion, which is politicians should earn minimum wage. Los políticos deberían ganar únicamente el salario mínimo de su país. Shifty, do you need all that?
No.
No? But yeah, don't just give me a no. Tell me why. Welcome to the radio, man.
First of all, because I think no one should earn just the minimum wage.
But that's because the minimum wage is so low, Dan.
Yes.
That's because the minimum wage is so low. Do you think if politicians earned minimum wage, the minimum wage would still be so low?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought experiment, isn't it? Because the people in charge obviously don't have to preoccupy themselves with earning minimum wage. It's not an immense preoccupation for them, is it? Because they send their kids. Because there is a political class. I mean, I'm not sure about here in Spain, but most politicians, at least in the UK, they go through very, very similar educational experience in similar institutions. They eat dinner together. Even if they end up on opposite sides of the political aisle, there is definitely a political class. And I think the world over, none of us are happy, particularly happy with our politicians, are we? Are we? So it's interesting. And then I think the main piece of pushback I get when I ever push this idea is, no, it will make politicians even more corrupt. Well, my argument is this: if someone can only be trusted to take bribes, right, or not to take bribes because they have a high salary, then that person should not be in public office in the first place. I'm going to repeat that. If you can only trust them not to take bribes because they're rich, then they shouldn't be in public office in the first place. So this isn't, and you would probably agree with that statement. And if that's the case, then surely we need stricter guidelines, more oversight, more visibility into politicians' salaries. Just last week, Nigel Farage, oh my God, I hate the guy. The leader of the Brexit movement, now in charge of the extreme right-wing party in the UK, Reform. He was paid £5 million pounds to his private bank account. That only came out recently by a crypto multi-millionaire. I mean, the corruption is rife. Look, I can easily point to the politicians I hate that have taken bribes, but there's certainly politicians that I've liked that have taken bribes, right? And that use political office just as a stepping stone to get into the board of directors of some energy, pharmaceutical company, now tech giants probably. And it's sad, and we need to stem the flow. And how do we do that? I think we need to rethink our relationship with politics. And if we don't like politicians, perhaps we should be trying to attract a different kind of politician, right? And maybe paying them a minimum wage and have much stricter and stringent standards as to lobbying and bribery. Maybe that's what we need, friends. We can't continually sit down and be surprised that these people do not relate to us in any way when we continually vote in a similar class of people. So I think we need a shake-up. But am I alone in thinking that? Well, we'll get to the results of today's poll in a little bit. First of all, I want to see what you guys are saying here. All right, let's scroll. Vero says, true, politicians should practice what they preach. If they want people to have minimum wage, they should have a minimum wage. I agree. It should be service. We should look at politicians and think, wow. Politicians should be just like teachers, just like the police, just like fire people, just like, a ton of services we have in society that are underappreciated and underpaid. We need to put politicians in that category. We need to look at our politicians and think, wow, I wish they were paid more, these guys, doing such a great job. Right? I mean, yeah, it is a lot of pressure and, they have a very important job. You're going to tell me police people don't have an important job? Fire people don't have an important job? Teachers don't have an important job? Shaping and sculpting and molding the minds of the next generation, you're going to tell me they don't have an important job? Yet we feel, nurses, doctors, yet we feel completely comfortable that these multi-millionaires, today's going to be a day, Dan, when I get all my "you're a socialist" messages. I don't care. Tomorrow too. It's fun to play in this playground. Anyway, so yeah, I agree with you, Vero. Gigi says you still have 1 minute to vote. By the way, if you want to do that, you still have a minute left. Apparently. Oh no, we've finished now. Gigi says it could end up like in the UK in the past when MPs were not paid. Only the rich could afford to be politicians. We're not saying that they shouldn't be paid, Gigi. We're saying they should be paid minimum wage. That's what we're saying. Oh, inflation. Oh, driving. Come on. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting annoyed. I also mentioned gerrymandering, didn't I? I should, and then cut myself off because I didn't want to go into a big political rant. Gerrymandering, do you know what it is, Dan?
No.
Spelled Gerry, mandering, Mandering. Gerrymandering is when in the US, for example, it's happening right now. There's a crisis over there because Republicans have been redrawing the district lines to try and concentrate Republican voters. And then the Democrats are trying to do that too, to some limited success. Essentially, it's politicians picking their electorate instead of the electorate, us, picking our politicians. Something is broken. Something is broken. Not just in the American political system, all over the world. But this is just one example. Because gerrymandering, it's not illegal. It's not crime. I mean, usually it's only done every 10 years, but, you know, obviously Donald Trump rewriting the political rules in his country. Anyway, let's continue on. I do have more messages here to read. So that's gerrymandering, when they redraw the lines of a district to try and concentrate more votes and guarantee a victory in local elections. Gigi says, yeah, it could end up like in the UK in the past when MPs were not paid, only the rich could afford it. Look, the kind of people who the political classes, I hate to say this because then I get accused of being a socialist, but there is a problem, right, Gigi? Are you happy with your politics and politicians right now? Eugene says, we need AI instead of politicians, so we don't need to pay it even minimum wage. What do you think about that idea, Dan?
Can you repeat the phrase?
So Eugene says, we need AI instead of politicians. Inteligencia artificial. Then we don't even
it's an awful idea.
You think it's an awful idea? Tell me why you think it's an awful idea.
You are almost every day telling us that AI tells everyone that is the most intelligent people, and now you want it to...
No. I'm reading Eugene's point and asking you to comment on it, which I don't normally do, but recently I'm so happy with your contributions. I just want you to... to take your temperature on that idea.
No, my opinion is that if I can trust ChatGPT for a stupid thing,
yeah,
I won't trust it for a politics thing anyway.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, one of the main jobs of any politics is to make sure resources are distributed fairly, right? And a resource can either be cash, it can be food, it can be, land. It's basically there is a systematic element to politics that is very important, and perhaps an AI might be good at that. But here's the question, and here's the rub: like, who creates the AI, with what biases baked in? An interesting idea, one that I've argued on the show before. But yeah, I mean, you've got to wonder who's programmed the AI and with what priorities, right? Go on, Dan, you had something to say, right?
No, I was going to say that if a dog can't vote on a human election, for example,
yeah,
neither so something that is not human.
Yeah, I don't think he's talking about who should vote, who the electorate are. I think he's more talking about who should...
Humans for humans,
yeah,
other things for other things.
Yeah. That's fair play. Oh my God, when the robots take over, Dan, they're going to kill you first. If any of my AI overlords from the future are listening to this, I'm a big fan. All right. Artemisa says, true. I think some politicians are only there to get immensely rich. If they were paid minimum wage, maybe we'd end up with politicians who are more interested in improving the country than enriching themselves. Let's get a ProBoh approved for Artemisa.
ProBoh approved.
We're not talking, or at least I don't want to attack this subject like an issue of wage. I'm thinking that this is a way we filter people, the kind of politicians we want, right? We're, if you're not going to get rich in politics, then fine, go and join the board of directors of some company. Stay in Silicon Valley. Don't dirty your feet by walking into the political realm, because let us make no mistake, politicians are elected to serve our interests, and the kind of people we are electing only seem to be serving their own. Can anyone argue with that statement? I think not. I mean, obviously, there are always going to be exceptions to that rule, aren't there? Bernie Sanders in the States has remained politically consistent. If you don't like that example because he's a Democrat, maybe Ron Paul, who was a libertarian, and I think he did run as an independent, but sways towards the Republicans in the States. Many examples in the UK. I'm sure you can name a few in Spain, but sadly they're the exception to the rule, aren't they? Bridge here says, so Rob, you are becoming a politician. You are asking him to contribute because you like what he is saying. Exactly. Or sometimes I don't like what he's saying, but I think that it's valuable for everybody to hear. Right? This is why we have this show. It's an open forum for you to express your ideas and engage in some critical thinking. I did get some messages on Instagram as well. We'll pay some lip service to those. I know a lot of you wrote to me today. I'm going to try and not fixate because practically everybody who wrote said, oh, bribery, corruption. And I've already told you my thoughts on that. If being wealthy is the only thing stopping someone from taking a bribe, then that person should not be in public office. Right? I think you can agree. So what a great filter. You're only going to earn minimum wage. Don't bother applying. Okay. Cedric Lambert says, I get the frustration behind this, but paying politicians too little could make corruption even worse. Again, I think that's an incorrect assessment. And I think if it's only the wage that keeps politicians honest, then they shouldn't be in office in the first place. It should be a vocation. It should not be. It should not attract people who are there to enrich themselves. Brianna Ellis, part of me agrees leaders shouldn't be completely disconnected from ordinary people's financial reality. I like that opinion, Brianna. Yeah, the financial reality of you and I, Dan, that you and I live. Is completely inconsistent with most people in politics. They will never understand those struggles. Stefan Illich says, if politicians had to live on minimum wage, they'd probably fix wages and living costs a lot faster. Yeah, I agree with that. Or at least it'd be more of a priority, wouldn't it? We're going to tackle a similar kind of question tomorrow using the lens of education. Nadia says, the real issue isn't salary, it's accountability and influence from money elsewhere. And I agree with that, Nadia. I agree with that. Well, it's not, the real issue isn't salary. Okay, we agree with that. It's accountability and influence. So we need more stringent safety checks, more boundaries, more safeguards on political contributions, don't we? Don't we? You know, there is no way a politician should be receiving £5 million from a crypto multi-millionaire, and then in his first interview after receiving that money, talk about how Britain should be more active in crypto and how we should loosen regulations, which happened on LBC days after he received the donation. It's not a fact. That's not an opinion. That's counting. That's a fact. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting angry, Dan. All right, should we get to the results of the poll? So I said politicians should earn their country's minimum wage. Los políticos deberían ganar únicamente el salario mínimo de su país. And you guys said 75% true. All right. I mean, obviously, it's quite a glib and surface level way to talk about political corruption, isn't it? And to talk about our representatives. But it's an interesting lens to take this problem we all have. And I'm talking about we all because on every side of the aisle, we are unhappy with how politics is run and the people we elect to represent us. the shiniest of two turds. Right? That's usually what a vote ends up being. So if we want to vote people who are going to make everything better for everyone, perhaps we should be voting in people who aren't there for the money. They're there for the service. I mean, of course, it's very glib and it's easy to say and hard to implement, but maybe the things that are best for us, taste bitter in the mouth. But you know what Grandpa Bo would say about all that, right, friends? He'd say, Rob, that's just an opinion, and opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one. They all stink, including mine. Let's move on to today's 100 Humans. Oh my God. It was a long walk to work today across snow-capped mountains and through river valleys, and on that walk I encountered 100 humans and I asked them all a question. Today's question was, what profession do you trust less than a politician? ¿Qué profesión te inspira menos confianza que un político? Big thank you to Carlos, Fenokitty, Ingrid, Morena, Clarao. I don't know how that's supposed to be said. Athul Dan, Emma Lee, MP Contel, Arancha Delgado, Carmen, Ana Casan, Fine Watchmaking, Ivan Samroff, Ravdos, Noel, Pedro, Juan Areo, Ivan GP. Do you want me to continue, Dan? No. And everybody else. If I didn't read out your name, it's not because I don't love you. All right, let's go to Dan first. Dan, a profession you trust less than a politician?
I trust all professions, so I don't really know.
You're so trusting. Do you trust politicians?
I don't know.
Go on, give me.
Depends on who.
Give me an answer. Give me something.
Maybe a journalist.
A journal. Oh, Dan, you break my heart, man. You break my heart. Is journalist there? Yes, it is.
Ole.
Yeah, ole to you. Look, I don't shy away from opinions that I don't agree with, as you can see. But yeah, journalists do inspire less confidence today than they have done in the past. It's the third most popular answer, with 14 of 100 humans saying journalist. That hurts me, Dan.
It's not my fault that it's on the list.
No, it's not your fault. It's 100 humans' fault. I mean, look, I am. I understand that I swim against
And
the
almost
current.
every day you tell me the same two only pages that you trust.
Yeah.
The other ones are...
But you know who works for those pages, right, Dan? Journalists.
Well,
And there are great journalists in other publications. Anyway, but
not always, but always a journalist.
Okay. Cheesy Louise. Vero says priests. Oh my God, I'm glad I didn't say that. Priests is not there. Womp, womp, womp. A police officer, at least in my country, says Eugene. Police officer? No, it's not there. Telemarketers says, who said that? Telemarketers says Gigi. Telemarketers is teleoperadores, I think, de ventas. Is it there? Yes, it is. Ole. 23 of 100 humans said telemarketers. It's the number one answer. Ole. You guys are on fire. Look at you. Let's see. She also says salespeople. There is a particular product. There's segundo mano. There's a particular second-hand product that is famed for having untrustworthy salespeople. There's a prompt. There's an idea. Okay. Artemisa says a lawyer. An abogado. Is lawyer there? Lawyers trusted less than politicians? Yes, it's there. Well done. 11 of 100 humans said lawyers. You're writing something down, Dan. Is it what you think? Tell me on the microphone.
A car seller?
A used car salesman, right? Gigi is with you. She says used car. Vendedor de coches de segunda mano. Is it there, though? Yes, it is. Well done. Oh, okay. I'll give you another clue for another answer. Mad Men. Yeah, Bridge got that one as well. Mad Men. Famed. One industry in particular famed for being untrustworthy. The TV show Mad Men will give you the answer. Let's take a look at our friends on Instagram. Another politician, says Carlos. What profession do you trust less than a politician? Another politician. Fenokity says fortune teller or astrologer. Very good. Are they even jobs? Ugh. Yeah, a lot of people said that. Ingrid said tarotist, which I believe refers to tarot cards. Priest says Morena. Athul Dan, car salesman or estate agent. So we've had car salesman, is estate agent there. Agente inmobiliario. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done, you. Just two more left to get. Let's see. A CEO, a landlord. Oosh. Bankers, says MP Contel. Is bankers there? Yes, it is. No one wants to say the Mad Men prompt. Do you know what it is if I say Mad Men?
I've never seen that show.
Okay. Well, I'm sad to say, guys, today you did not complete the 100 humans. Wah, wah, wah. But you only missed one. Let's go through the list, shall we? Asked 100 humans to name a profession you trust less than a politician. ¿Qué profesión te inspira menos confianza que un político? In position number 7, we had a used car salesman, vendedor de coches de segundo mano. In position number 6, we had a marketing or an advertising executive. Mad Men. Yeah. 8 of 100 humans said that. In position number 5. Oh, damn. 100 humans in there. They're in a rush. Lawyers, abogados. In position number 4. Bankers, banqueros. 12 of 100 humans. In position number 3. Sadly, journalist is there. Periodista. 14 of 100 humans said that. In position number 2. Estate agent. Agente inmobiliario. 19 of 100 humans. And finally, in position number 1, we had teleoperadores de ventas, telemarketers. Well done. Artemisa said marketing. Yeah, I would have accepted that as well. Well done, guys. Well done. Again, just a quick reminder, the Vaughan Radio Trivia Night with Alberto Alonso will take place on the 2nd of June at 8 p.m. Don't miss it. I'll be there. Dan will have an excuse. I think he's already concocted one. All right, friends, that's all we have time for. See you next time.